Today I want to talk about a controversial topic that has been making its way around the internet. And I did a video on it yesterday, but I quickly removed it because I left out some very pertinent information that really does affect what I was trying to say in that video. I definitely don't want to spread misinformation, and I definitely don't want to give anyone the mindset that I am hating or in any way diminishing or putting down anyone. Everyone has a right to live their life the way they want to. And for me, bodily autonomy is always going to be important. You shouldn't tell people what to do with their bodies. Obviously, we are living in a different culture than we did 20, 30 years ago. The Olympics this year it's had a rocky start with that ridiculous scene that we saw of a man from head to toe in blue and then surrounded by people of the LGBTQIA community, and it made headlines all over the internet. I stayed out of it because I figured this is already old. This is something they've been pushing on us for the last 5 years. For me, all of it started once I started seeing shows like RuPaul's Drag Race and things like that. I realized that we're going to start seeing a lot more of this being pushed on us. This push to have us accept being androgynous, being pansexual, bisexual, any of these type of things, which is ridiculous because back in the day, nobody talked about their sexual orientation. If you were gay, if you were a lesbian, nobody gave a shit. They just looked at you like, oh, that's for you. Great. We don't need to know your sexual orientation. We don't need to know what part of the LGBTQIA community you belong to. But today, it is expressed so much in not just the television that we watch, but our news, and even sometimes in environments where it doesn't belong, like our education. So I feel with that already, the Olympics, what they did was not, to me, it wasn't a shocker. So it seems like the Olympic boxing community or the boxing scene is sparking debates over Iman Khalif. Reports came out that a trans man won a gold medal. Now, we'll get into whether or not he's a man or woman later in this video. But the fight in question ended in just 45 seconds. And the woman that fought him, or her, or whatever, both, she seemed like in deep despair after she lost that fight. She tapped out within under 45 seconds of fighting Iman. And therefore, that is what people are saying. This is not fair. This is unjust. There's so many questions. How did this person was allowed to be in the woman category? Is a passport all they need? There's so many questions, right? And there's so much information on the internet that the Olympic Committee are saying is misinformation and incorrect, because of course they're going to say that this is all propaganda and this is just a way to isolate this person that won, quote unquote, in their words, fair and square. So there's a lot of issues around this debate. I've seen videos after video of women screaming on the internet, this is unfair. People like Riley Gaines, the swimmer that lost to a trans person a couple years back. So there's all these issues that us as women, and the reason I wanted to make the video is because I wanted to give a woman's perspective. And ironically, you're going to have people nowadays that don't even know what a woman is. They won't even know. They'll look at a woman and say, well, you look like a woman, but I would say don't misgender anyone, because now you're going to have people saying, I'm not a woman. People don't know what they are. People are all confused, and that's just the way they like it. They want you discombobulated. They want you in a daze, not knowing what your sexual orientation is, when God gave you specific parts of your body to let us know what that is, and specific chromosomes to let us know what that is and what you identify as. But if you want to go on the flip side of that, I do understand that sometimes having no titles does feel pretty good, to not have to identify and be like, I'm this, I'm black, I'm white, I'm straight, I'm gay. Wouldn't it be a wonderful world if we didn't have to do any of that and we could just be humans? It would be nice, but they've taken the shit too far, and here's what I have to say about it. People are questioning the fairness and integrity of allowing a trans athlete to compete amongst female athletes in the boxing categories. There's a growing concern that this could be a trend that might even affect younger athletes. And this does raise serious questions for me about the safety and fairness. I can imagine putting my little ones in sports, and let's say they are competing and it's a girls' sports, and there's a boy in there that hasn't really changed his sexual orientation, but he identifies as a girl, competing with them. It simply wouldn't be fair. For me, it's one of the reasons why you don't see women jumping to join into male-dominated sports. I can't imagine a woman wanting to go be playing in the NFL with all those giant linebackers and defensive players on these football teams. You would get crushed. There's no way around this. And you don't see women doing that. You don't see them saying, well, I've transitioned now to a man and I want to go play male-dominated sports. It doesn't happen, no matter how much testosterone, how much beard they grow out, how much things they've done to themselves to change their gender. Which brings me to another question. On the issue of gender, I always find it strange that you've got these communities in the LGBTQIA that are fighting so hard to be a different gender, to say, I am a woman. If there is no gender, right, you can be anything. If there's, where basically can identify what a woman is, what makes you want to go be a woman? What is a woman? And I guess Matt Walsh had it right to say, what is a woman? Because if you can't identify what a woman is with XY chromosomes or with any kind of quote unquote science, which was peer reviewed, and people back in the day knew what a woman was by their body parts and by certain things that they have, chromosomes. We don't have science the way we did back in the day, because apparently in this space to identify what a woman is and explain to us, maybe educate us on what a woman is, if it means that you can just call yourself a woman because you've undergone some surgeries and some different things. Because I'm definitely confused now, and I'm going to start marking down that I am other or something else, and I'll just identify as an Asian woman or a Hispanic woman or whatever I want to identify as, because there is no limit on what we can be anymore. So recently, during a press conference, an Olympic boxing representative was asked if the program would be reviewed due to all the concerns that I just stated. The response was inadequate, dismissive, and straight out ridiculous. He said there is no scientific way to definitively categorize athletes by sex. That response would leave anyone baffled. It left me feeling confused, unsatisfied, and frustrated. In the past, it was very clear. There were rules and things you would have to do in order to compete in certain categories at the Olympics. This for me feels very much like if an adult said, I want to go join a little league team and identify as a child. You would win. Undeniably, you would win because you are bigger, faster, stronger, and you're an adult competing in a children's sports. I understand that some people don't like that kind of critical thinking because it puzzles them to think someone would actually compare the two. But this is what it feels like to me as a woman. As a woman, it feels like men are invading women's spaces. And here's why it matters. If I have a child, they love sports, they love to go compete in high school and do all, and they have a man on their team in their locker room with them changing, I would be very concerned about that. I would also like to point out, in the past, no trans man or woman or any trans athlete has ever won a gold medal in boxing in the Olympics. The IOC, or International Olympic Committee, has policies. They've always had policies regarding participation of transgender athletes, including guidelines for eligibility and classification. And no trans man had ever achieved winning a gold medal in boxing or any other Olympic sport to date. This is allegedly. I could fact check me, but that's what, at least the information I've researched and found. So it begs the question, is the timeline that we're on right now with this huge push towards welcoming and accepting and liberating and allowing people to run around freely and just become androgynous? Today I feel like I'm a man. I remember watching a Demi Lovato video where she was bisexual, then she was pansexual, then she was, allegedly, then she was back to being straight, then back to, and it's like, how confused are people? This makes me question mental health. This makes me question the communities in science. I mentioned Tony Fauci earlier in this video. Tony Fauci, as many of you guys know, when he retired, he went on to teaching. He did not retire and just go quietly into the night with his millions upon millions of dollars. He went into the education system. So the college institutions are the greatest way to indoctrinate and confuse young people. Parents, if you're out there listening as a mother, as a woman, biological woman that bared 3 children, gave birth, yes, from my you-know-what, to children, I can tell you that I don't know any man that can do that. And if there is one, please point me in his direction. I'd love to know a man, actual man that has not changed his gender, give birth to a child. Please point me in that direction, because I'm not going to sit here and be gaslighted by our quote-unquote science community. I've already mentioned videos saying I have disdain for the science community. I feel like there are benefits to them, but they, in my opinion, the people in the science community love to play God. They love it. And most of them, in my opinion, are atheists. Hence the reason why they love to play God, because it's a control thing for them. People like Tony Fauci that gave us the science during the lockdowns and the pandemic. All these scientists that think they know everything, in my opinion, they know nothing. The universe is so vast and great. They're like a speck of dust blowing in the wind to me. I have no respect for them. I'm sorry. I believe que sera, what will happen in life will happen if you're meant to die. That's life. You're born, you die. Guaranteed. There's a reason they call it sports entertainment, because it's sports and it's entertainment. Like when I grew up watching the WWE or WWF, I loved it because it was entertaining. It was drama filled. It was full of characters and personalities. It's entertainment. There's people even spreading theories out there that most sports are coordinated for people to win anyway. So do with that what you may. I'm just saying, for me in general, I've always considered it a form of entertainment. Nowadays, it has become overly politicized, just like everything else you see in the world, like our media that we consume on a daily, news, publications, magazines, television shows, Netflix, streaming platforms, even the internet has become overly politicized. We're not having a happy, fun-free Olympic. We're having a highly politicized Olympic that is full of politics and people pushing their agendas and forcing things down our throat. I'm glad I never let my kids watch it, because I would have been having to cover their eyes when that guy was laying there with his legs sprawled open for the world to see, and a child there with drag queens running around, dancing, tra-la-lying, and acting like we're in some Roman. I feel like we're back in Rome. And Rome said, give them entertainment and bread and they'll be sat. It's true. I feel like we're going back in time. We've learned nothing as a society. We've learned nothing. Ethics, morals, values, class. There's a time and place for everything. I loved RuPaul Drag Race. Let me just put that out there. And my kids did watch a couple of those shows, but they were actually done very tastefully. If you watch it, these guys are creative, they're entertaining. Well, these women, I have to say, these queens. But there's a time and place. Do you see what I'm saying? The internet, the way it works now is everything is there. There's something for everyone. But something like a mainstream thing, like the Olympics, where little children are watching, your great grannies are watching, this isn't the time and place for that shit. As an actual brand, the Olympics has turned me off. I will never be watching it again. Another point is it's hard to ignore the fact that some of these athletes have worked their entire life and they find themselves now at a disadvantage against competitors who are assigned male at birth. Now, the situation around Iman Khalif, that one is questionable. I'll get there in a minute. But you guys remember seeing Venus and Serena Williams, and I'll put a picture here of both sisters, and they competed against a man and lost. The point is, these are award-winning athletes. These are not your bottom-rung athletes. These are people that have been doing this since childhood, and we've seen the movie, and we know what their story is. They worked their entire life. Could you imagine them working and then having to compete? They're forced to compete against a biological man. That's where the problem comes in. I have no problems with people changing their gender and doing whatever. Like I said at the beginning of this, I don't care. Boo, do you. No one is stopping you. But then don't infringe on other people because you feel that that's what you want for you. The argument here is not about winning medals. It's about ensuring fairness in competition and safety for all the athletes that are involved. Wouldn't you agree? You wouldn't want your daughter or your son being punched out by somebody that's not even a fair competitor to them, a fair challenge to them. Talk about the IOC president, Thomas Bach. Thomas Bach addressed the ongoing scrutiny over this boxers and female sports and said that this was motivated as a cultural war. He said that we have two boxers who were born women, raised as women, have female passports. Passports are so important, right? Jot down that you are a woman, and have competed as a woman for many years. And this is what Bach stated. And he said that there are people who want to monopolize the definition of who is a woman. No, babe, we don't want to monopolize. We want clear understanding of what makes us a woman, because this is going to matter to future athletes going forward. Then somehow Bach connected the controversy to a broader Russian-led campaign against the IOC and the Paris Olympics, where only 15 Russian athletes are competing as neutrals. 15, that's it. This is slim compared to back in the day. This comes as the IOC and the international sports organizations have isolated the Russians because it is an enemy of the state to them. Remember, we're in an ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. The Olympics used to be a place where any country and every country could compete, come together, put forward their best athletes, and a human effort. When you watched the Olympics, you felt such pride seeing all these other smaller countries maybe you didn't even know existed. It was beautiful in the 80s and 90s watching this. I grew up thinking, oh my gosh, I'd love to go to this one day. I think my parents might have gone to the one in Utah. The fact remains is there's a lot of people, this is their lifelong dream to go to the Olympics. And now with all this chaos and craziness, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. He said, what we have witnessed from the Russian side, particularly from the IBA, Bach added, is a defamation campaign against France, against the games, and against the IOC. A lot of women that watched that video of that girl crying after 45 seconds, we want the evidence. We want to know, why was Iman Khalif denied in the beginning? This would resolve this issue so much if you just went and did proper testing. I feel like if there's an issue documented showing that these particular athletes, there's two of them apparently in this Paris Olympics, that failed to show proof of gender in the Olympics before Paris, then a simple test would resolve all of these complaints and complications. If changes are to be made, they need to be carefully considered to maintain the integrity and safety of everyone in the sports. So what do you think about this whole situation? Are the current policies fair? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and please remember to like, share, subscribe. It is greatly appreciated. So I thank you in advance for watching, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Have a great day and think for yourself.